Hey everyone, I'm back again to see if I can recreate this photo effect of a water balloon exploding. So in my previous video, I've demonstrated how I used the easier method of using a really fast shutter speed in bright daylight to achieve the effect. Now in this video, I wanted to try to recreate the same effect, except this time I wanted to use flash to freeze the explosion of the water balloon, which did ultimately lead to nicer looking images in my opinion. So here's the equipment that I used for this second attempt of a water balloon exploding. So this time I did use a backdrop of a black cloth to hide my messy garage, and a darker background is preferable to make the water more visible. Next thing is I had a tripod to stabilize the camera, and a camera with a 50mm to 100mm focal length lens is preferred so that your camera can be far enough away to avoid the water balloon splashes. Now unfortunately, an iPhone in place of a camera won't work because we're going to be working in dark conditions. Now you're going to need something to pop the balloon with. I just used a makeshift balloon pokey stick, which is a safety pin taped to a selfie stick. So next you'll need water balloons and some way to hang them up. You might want to use the same color water balloons as your background so that when you capture the pieces of balloon exploding, it might merge with the background a little better and keep a cleaner shot. I didn't do that in my case though. And next I have an off-camera flash unit with a trigger and stand. So I'm using the Altura Photo AP305S and RT305 flash and trigger set. So as you probably will be able to tell from my resulting photos, I honestly have no idea how to use flash units, but that's the point of these videos, is to learn by experimentation. So links to all the equipment are listed in the video description, and hopefully you know more about them than I do. So for camera settings, I put the camera into manual mode, which lets me manually set the aperture and shutter speed, and I also wanted to manually set the ISO. So at first, I set the shutter speed to 1/200th of a second, which is the max flash sync speed. Any faster than that would lead to banding in the resulting photo because the shutter would close before the flash could fully be captured by the sensor. However, when I started to shoot, it was really hard to capture the exact moment of the balloon popping, so I slowed down the shutter speed to 1/10 of a second and relied on the flash to freeze the action. So for aperture, I set it to around f11. That gives me a wide depth of field to capture the water droplets at varying focal lengths. So when setting up the shot, you want the initial exposure without flash to result in a black photo. The flash firing is what is going to light up your scene to make it visible and freeze the action. So when just framing up the shot, I boosted up the ISO just so I could see where the balloon was so that I could focus on it. And then once I locked down the focus and framing, I would reduce the ISO to 100. Now I set the flash 45 degrees facing the balloon and just take some sample shots with the flash and adjust exposure settings. And now it's time for a ridiculous amount of trial and error in order to get the timing just right to capture the moment that the balloon explodes. Alright, so here's my trial and errors. As you can see, too early, too late, out of frame. But when I finally got the timing just right, the resulting photos were well worth the effort. And if I had money to spare, then I would invest in a sound trigger, which automatically starts the camera exposure when it hears the sound of the balloon burst. And if you do go this route, then I've heard that you might need to make sure that there's a little bit more air in the balloon so that you get a louder audible pop when the balloon bursts. So when I have more time, I would gladly try this water balloon burst photography photo shoot again, except I would spend the time to add food coloring to the balloons to make the resulting photos pop more, pun intended. Additionally, I would try putting the glasses upside down and towards the bottom of the balloon, then flip the photo when editing. That would make it look more like a head and skinnier neck. But of course, I would highly encourage everyone to experiment on their own and try what works best for you folks. Alright, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you want to follow along as I try out more photo and video ideas and learn about new tech and techniques.